It's not the strongest nor most intelligent species that survive, but rather those that are the most responsive to change. By staying adaptable, Netflix has consistently been a step ahead of the competition. The world of entertainment is completely different due to the rise of Netflix. They went from renting out DVDs by mail, when only 2% of households had DVD players, to a fixed-fee monthly subscription model, to a completely online streaming service with licensed content, to finally the original content you see today. Many have mentioned that Netflix has reached a saturation point in the US, but this has been an ongoing doubt for the last couple of years as they continue exceeding expectations. As of now, the streaming landscape looks like this. But as major US companies enter the streaming space, the future of streaming should look very different. So let's analyze the landscape. Netflix's model is aimed at continuously adding subscribers over the long run to fuel their growth story. For this to work, international subscriber growth is key. But it's not just about adding subscribers. More importantly, it's about keeping them in the face of rising competition. For them, the most important metric is churn rate. What is the number of subscribers leaving the service in comparison to the total number of subscribers added over a period of time? And that's where Netflix's original content comes into play. The hope is that as they add popular, unique content, their churn rate improves. For other companies like Amazon though, churn rate is important, but Prime Video specifically means something entirely different. Jeff Bezos has mentioned, when we win a Golden Globe, it helps us sell more shoes. Prime Video is therefore used as more of a cross-selling tool. For them, the streaming service is not the main entree, it's dessert. This leads to different content decisions and consequently different key metrics. Cost per first stream is Amazon's way of analyzing the cost to hook a customer. It divides the production and marketing expenses of the show by the number of people who stream it. But this hasn't made them less shy about aggressively spending on big event content. For example, Amazon paid $130 million for Thursday night NFL games. They're also expected to spend $500 million on a prequel to The Lord of the Rings. Amazon's essentially playing a game that Netflix doesn't want to play. Netflix CEO Reed Hastings has said in a quote before, "We want to be the Starbucks of streaming. Amazon is just trying to be the Walmart." So the focus is to make the user experience and content so good that the customer falls in love with Netflix. Hastings again said, quote, "We are investing heavily in machine learning to make it so that you turn on Netflix and there's a row of 4 choices and you want to watch them all." So they're aggressive in their choice of content that generates repeat viewers, not in bidding wars for a sports game that you only watch one time. They also offer their creators the ultimate freedom, so that they stay away from a natural drive towards conformity. Hastings has said before that you should want to have more things not work out, and that the hit ratio they have is too high right now. He's constantly pushing for the content team to take more risks and try crazier things. What Netflix fundamentally understood earlier than others is that what consumers say they want to watch and what they actually watch are totally different. Ted Sarandos, Netflix's chief content officer, said that what they started to realize in the days of mailing DVDs is that consumer tastes are crazy diverse. There is an audience for everything. Hence why they don't mess with outgoing content the same way other studios might, making them a huge draw for creatives. Netflix has been built on collecting behavioral data, which will improve their recommendation engine to the point where ideally, they know what you want better than you think you do. In Amazon's case though, people who watch Prime Video are more likely to be their high-value customers. Prime Video is just one piece of a puzzle aimed towards achieving strategic dominance. Getting into bidding wars, hiking the content budget, this may not seem like an efficient strategy, but it's not meant to be in a traditional sense. Amazon has a history of thinning the oxygen for their competitors by lowering their own margins. Disruption typically comes from the low end of the market, but if you're Amazon and you can sit on the lowest end of the market in terms of price, while providing the best customer experience, disrupting them is virtually impossible. That's what makes entering the streaming business a high-stakes decision. Disney has been a company on the wrong side of this wave, hence making their position in all of this one of defense. As early as 2012, Disney began licensing their content to Netflix, but over time their content also played a small part in fueling Netflix's growth. The trend towards streaming though only really began to impact Disney's core business when they started losing ESPN subscribers. Because of the virtual monopoly ESPN has, they achieved unparalleled scale while generating recurring revenue through TV subscriptions. But when Disney saw their most prized asset was on the decline due to cord cutting, they realize they have to rethink their content distribution strategy and start their own streaming service, and that's where Disney Plus comes in. As a company that just produces differentiated content, moving direct to consumer is a radical change. Not only do they have to get the content right, but they also have a disadvantage when it comes to distribution. Today, more than ever, consumers have a strong relationship with their content providers driven primarily by user experience. This has been Netflix's long-term strategy and one they've evidently excelled at. It's a powerful strategy because fundamentally humans are perpetually dissatisfied. So it's a strategy that's inherently long-term. This makes the curve look like a never-ending quest to satisfy the user. And this is a curve Netflix and Amazon are much further along on than Disney, who is much less experienced in the space. Beyond just streaming though, the data network effects these incumbents have by being first movers is an even greater advantage. So it remains to be seen if Disney can create as user-friendly of a platform. However, Disney also doesn't have to deal with the same problems that destroy so many internet companies: high customer acquisition costs. With Lucasfilm, Marvel, Pixar, and now 21st Century Fox content, Disney isn't short of intellectual property. In fact, 60% of the top 10 grossing domestic movies at the box office in 2018 were produced by either Disney or Fox. With less marketing expenses, strong IP, and the scalable benefits of streaming, Disney has their own share of advantages. Advantages that are already forcing their competition to spend billions to try matching. Even with Netflix's original content spend, their most watched shows is still almost entirely licensed content. So what happens when most of this is removed? Warner Media CEO John Stankey notes, 75 to 80% of their total viewing tonnage is sitting on a lot of that licensed content. So the pressure is they've got to make this pivot over the next 18 to 24 months to get people off of viewing the licensed content and onto their own. This is a pretty frightening proposition for Netflix, as competition heats up with other companies that have been creating content for decades. And one of those companies, Time Warner, recently merged with AT&T to make them yet another competitor with a streaming service set to launch in 2019. This means a company with expertise in distribution is pairing with a pure content company, theoretically making them the most powerful. This also means AT&T can zero-rate Time Warner content, effectively eliminating all data cap restrictions from customer devices streaming that content. This should make Time Warner's bundle much more attractive to the consumer, and they can continue also licensing out their own content to other companies. And then of course there's the exclusive content investments made by Facebook, Apple, and YouTube. Companies that have staggering global scale and loads of cash to boot, making them also very hard to overlook. So what does this all mean? Essentially, things are about to get more complicated for the streaming landscape in 2019 and beyond. What we can say now is that this will probably not be a winner-take-all market. Many will share services with their friends and families, and as Serenados mentioned, consumer tastes are very diverse. Because of the scale that the internet can achieve, this is a global market, and consumers will choose the services best suited to their tastes. But one thing is certain, the future of entertainment will not just be a competition for our money, it'll be an all-out war for a share of time in our daily lives.